Hello again, and welcome to Chapter 4. It's all about transportation and transmission. One of the big things about this chapter is attaining energy independence. One of the only ways that our country is going to be able to do that, unfortunately, for the automobile companies, is that we're probably going to need to switch over to a more efficient form of transportation. That would most likely be electric powered mass transit type of situation going on. A lot of people really like their cars. So, made a little list of a little bit of the downfalls associated with owning your own car. I guess I'll get into the financial ones first. The average price of owning a car in the United States, I don't remember what year or where I got this. Don't worry about it. Just believe me. It's okay. Is $28,000 for a brand new car, average. The cost of maintenance and gas for that vehicle is $8,588 a year on average. An equivalent public transit system will run you, at the highest I found, I wasn't really looking too hard, but I found a lot of numbers, so I just kind of picked some that were a pretty good range. Anywhere from $65 to $265 a month, which ends up being $780 to $3,180 a year. So if you take $8,588 as opposed to $3,180 a year, and that is half of the price. And one of the reasons why public transit is as expensive as it is, and I know looking at it and reading it off, it's only half, or it's less than half. But like I said, the only reason why it's even that high is because of initial building costs, maintenance costs, the lack of amount of people that are using it. And one of the ways to overcome the cost, even though it's only less than half, is more widespread use. If everyone used it, then it would be cheaper. Basically, is how it boils down to it. A couple things I'd like to point out is the negative consequences of owning a vehicle. Yes, I know owning a vehicle gives you independence. You can go where and when you please. And two of the main complaints about public transportation is the scheduling and the people, actually. I think it's the other main complaint. The scheduling, like I said like 2 seconds ago, could be very easily countered by if everybody used it, there'd be more lines. There'd be more transit lines. There'd be more. If it was all public transit, obviously there would be a lot. Some cities they do a beautiful, beautiful job of public transit. So it's mostly the people that live in cities that don't really have that kind of system in place that complain about it. They don't really know how really well it can be, and even better than that, really, in most instances, it can be even better. The people kind of aspect of that, believe it or not, some people are pretty creepy. They do some weird things. They smell interesting. They like to stare at people, or if you look at some people the wrong way, they take offense to that and they'll try to call you out on it. But keeping people safe is a pretty big priority of mine. And I think that if a train system were created on such a scale like that, we would need to make certain ways in which to protect our people. That wouldn't really be too hard if you knew that that's something that you were trying to go for. So making something like, I don't know, like individualized pods or not train cars, but like your own little rooms with like a lot of larger trains that go long distances have their own compartments and stuff like that, where you can close the door and you can hang out and whatnot. So stuff like that, it's easy to overcome. So when you have an argument saying that people are creepy on trains, then there is always something that can be done about that and the other two, so, or the other one. All right, now I'd like to move on to some. I think I've actually said I was going to move on to this like 3 times, and I've kind of started talking about other things. But some of the downfalls of personal operated vehicle type of a society is, for one, if you're not thinking about all the petroleum use and all that other stuff. These are some things beside that, which is a pretty big, and I don't know if I don't really have to emphasize that. People know that fluctuating gas prices are insane, and pollution, and just it's ridiculous. I don't need to go over that. But some of the other things like traffic accidents, cars hitting other cars hitting people, cars hitting buildings, people doing dumb stuff, just having accidents in general, not necessarily stupidity. Things happen when you give everybody control of these large machines, it kind of runs along the same lines of like gun control. You're really giving people these, I believe in everyone owning their own firearms, but you're giving these people these deadly weapons and you're kind of letting them loose on everybody and hoping that it all works out for the best. I mean, they test people on things, but a lot of times the things that they test you on don't really, they're not, it's not all inclusive. So you can get tickets for stuff that you don't really understand why, and it's like, oh, I was never told that, blah blah blah. So I guess they basically get taxable income on people just by letting them be ignorant. I guess I think it's pretty funny. Like a lot of times they don't test for things like saying that you have to use your blinker, but in my opinion, the whole use of a blinker is to tell people behind you where you're going, so they don't go in the same lane as you or whatever, and you hit them. But if it's a single lane turning into two lanes, that you can't, they're not gonna like speed up and go. That's their fault at that point. They're just stupid. Or certain places you can't park or something like that. I'm pretty vicious about this. I actually own a small trailer just for storage and whatnot, and I found out pretty ridiculously that you can't park it like on a public street, even if it's in like an alley where people don't walk around, they don't really hang out in. Obviously, there's not like houses facing it, there's walls on either side. Yeah, you can't park stuff there for more than like 3 days and they'll tow it. Even a nice, not that I'm rich or anything, I just had to save up for it, but a really decent looking trailer, it's the wheels, the tires are inflated, registration's complete, they towed it. And I thought that was kind of ridiculous because I had no idea that was even illegal. And I mean, they give you a warning, like a 3-day warning on it. But I mean, if it's a vehicle used for storage, you're not going to go out there. And it makes sense that they have the law to protect people. Not protect people, to protect the look of a city. To if it's like a car that's up on blocks and engines torn out, people spray painted and shit, it would make sense, but not. Yeah, I think they use the law a little bit liberally, and they really shouldn't do that. But way off topic. Sorry about that. Traffic accidents, speeding tickets, parking tickets. That I think those are freaking stupid. If society really didn't want you to speed, they would put governors in cars and like radio frequency transmitters that controlled the governors on certain streets, and that would control your speed level. Like you wouldn't be able to exceed like 45, on this street, or like 25 in a school zone, 15 in a school zone. You wouldn't physically be able to go that fast because your car would limit you at that point. So it isn't the fact that they want to keep people safe, that they're really just trying to collect taxes from you when they're giving you those tickets. So it's ridiculous. And parking tickets, you have to pay for the car, and now you have to pay to park it somewhere. That's insane. I think that's idiotic. Not only that, but traffic accidents that are caused by things like DUIs. DUIs are very, very like frowned upon in our society these days, and I think it costs up to like anywhere from like $1,500 to like $3,000 if you get a DUI. People that get DUIs or are in accidents related to any sort of substances that you might use would be, if you've ever experienced the loss of someone close to you or anyone that really. I mean that, or even if you're involved in the accident itself, I'm sure that doesn't sit with you very well throughout the rest of your life, what it is that you've done. And but things like that, being affected by substances, transportation system like this would completely eliminate something like that. And the loss of life, that's, people forget how precious it really is until it's gone. And things like this and all the traffic and accidents and whatnot that we have today is just, to me, it's completely unacceptable when we have the ability to make it not that way. I mean, if you know you're an angry parent who's lost their child, or even if it wasn't due to DUIs, just an accident, anything like that, and you think to yourself, it's like, why did this happen? What did I do? What did my kid do, or my parent or spouse or something do? And it just begs the question: is what is it that society is doing to prevent things like this? And enforcing speed limits and ticketing people, that's not going to do anything about it. So that's pretty ridiculous. Moving on from that kind of stuff like road rage, or all the time that you would waste in traffic just sitting there waiting for hours, depending on if you live in like LA or New York or something like that, to get just a couple 30, 40 miles back to your house is such a huge waste. For one, road rage, that would basically not exist anymore because you're not really in control of the movement of the public transportation vehicle, which would hopefully be a train and whatnot. You're inspiring disgust with your fellow man, whether it's on the road, someone that you don't like the way they're driving, they're not going fast enough, they're going too fast. You're giving people a reason to not like each other. And on the flip side of that, getting tickets, you're really just, when you get parking tickets, you get your car towed, you speeding tickets, you're just inspiring hate between human beings, and that's not really necessary at all. It's a complete waste. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of energy, and it's not something you should be doing in a modern society. Anything that you can do, especially on a public level like this, to reduce the hate. I know hate's not really a huge issue, like when it comes to hate crimes, yeah, it is, but anger crimes, stuff like that, just being upset with the system in general, and by the system I mean the government or anything like that, stuff like that can be avoided, not completely, but at least on this end, completely. And things like just individual things that happen to your car, like vandalism, theft, and someone joyriding in it, or chop shop in it, or whatever, just all those costs that make you upset at other people, and that's avoidable. Emergency rails, like, if you, I know all of you have been around when an ambulance is driven by and you've seen how it takes people forever to get by, and I'm sure those ambulance drivers, those fire truck drivers are just like, what is wrong with these people? Like, I have sirens on trying to get somewhere to save somebody's life, and people can't get over to the right. It's sad. It's really sad. If there were 100% public transportation system, these emergency vehicles, fire, ambulance, police, they would have their own separate rail line. So they would be able to get to you in an emergency that much more efficiently. They'd be able to get you to the hospital, they'd be able to get you emergency services, they'd be able to get those fires out more efficiently than they would have before. Before I said that going over the fact that fossil fuels and stuff like that isn't really a issue that I needed to go over, but I I probably should at some point. I think it's pretty obvious that they're pretty finite, that at some point fossil fuels, petroleum, coal, natural gas, that stuff's going to run out. I mean, you can find all sorts of interesting ways to find it, detect it, mine it, but the fact of the matter is it doesn't just produce itself real quick. It takes a lot of time. We're definitely going to burn through it pretty significantly sooner than we think. We should really, I don't want to say it's our only option, but we should really consider switching over to something like this a lot sooner. And if you at home are thinking that, well, I don't really know what I would be able to do to reduce how much gas I use, what I would recommend is, if not using the public transportation system, you still like your own personal vehicle, then get yourself a motorcycle or a scooter. I got a motorcycle, and it's a smaller engine size because it has the best gas efficiency of 250 cc's, and it's a standard type, so it gets great insurance. I mean, I get better gas mileage than a Prius, and I can still go wherever I want. And the fact that the engine size is so small, it only costs $4,000 brand new, and I think my insurance is $15 a month, and my gas is like $15 a month. So that's a pretty significant difference than having a vehicle or like a truck or anything only gets like 15 miles per gallon. It's a lot cheaper for one, and if you get it brand new, you can get warranties and all the other stuff, and they take care of it. Then you can have it forever. There's no reason why you can't do that. But one last thing about the public transportation, and one of the problems, actually a third problem that you might have with public transportation, is cargo. Or like motorcycles, like I said, is cargo space. People have stuff they want to move around. Like I said with the other two, if you know you have these problems before, there's always stuff you can do about it to fix it. There could be separate cargo holds on the public transit for moving your furniture and stuff like that if you're moving to a new place or something like that. Or even just smaller, not small, carts, like shopping carts, but not quite so ghetto, I guess. Not that they're super ghetto, but I mean, something that you would be able to bring into your house and keep there, like a cart that you can put groceries in, and it'd have storage levels, seal, you could put a lock on it or whatever, anything, something like that, and there could be space for it on the train. There's tons of things to do that you can do to go around those three complaints and then make it just as user friendly, I guess, as personal vehicle, except a lot more efficient.